Good afternoon. Wanted to swing by here to talk about a very important topic that I haven't really explained in this group. And some of you might have noticed that I changed the little tagline in our group to a body positive movement for moms and moms to be. So I thought I'd jump in here and just talk about kind of the basis of body positivity, especially in the world I live in, the world I work in. And give you some context to that, give you some of the lingo. And this will take much more than just one Facebook Live. But we're going to start with health at every size. So you might have, if you're following body positive social media, many of you, work in the industries. You're obviously familiar with HAES or health at every size. But I also realize that many people aren't. And that's one reason why I've started this group, is because through my professional experiences and specializing in in disordered eating and having an unhealthy relationship with food and how to heal that, I've learned so much in the body positivity space and the relationship with food space that I want to bring that to moms, because I see two things in the motherhood experience. So one, we know that motherhood, especially the transition to motherhood, so particularly the postpartum period, is particularly risky for disordered eating, for relapse into an eating disorder, for triggering an eating disorder, but even just any type of dieting or disordered eating. So we know that it's kind of a risky time because it's a really stressful time. We don't have a lot of self-care time. And there's a lot of other factors that play a role in that we won't talk about today. But I also see it as this really amazing opportunity for growth and really grounding ourselves and really embracing our new identities as mothers, or our changing identities as mothers as we go through the motherhood process, and being able to take food along with us in a way that feels really wellness focused and isn't dieting focused, and we're not using dieting as a way to kind of ground ourselves through the chaos that we might be experiencing through our mothering processes. So I kind of digressed with that a little bit, but let's talk about health at every size and some of the questions I get and what the principles are. So health at every size is actually trademarked. It's owned by a group called ASDA, or Association for Size Diversity and Health. And they trademark it because it's really important to them that when people use health at every size, that they use it appropriately according to the principles. It's really dangerous or in my opinion, it's kind of dangerous to promote, for example, like health at every size and weight loss, and I'll explain that in a second. So by trademarking it, they try to work to ensure that it is being used appropriately and true to its goals. So the principles, I'm going to read them, so I'll be kind of looking over here. But there are 5 principles. They just recently revised these. The first is based in weight inclusivity. So accept and respect the inherent diversity of body shapes and sizes, and reject idealizing or pathologizing of specific weights. So right now we have a huge obsession with pathologizing larger bodies. Health at every size doesn't mean that every single person is healthy at every size right now in this moment. What it means is we need to stop pathologizing our bodies and making our bodies a problem, and we need to support people in the pursuit of health in the body they're living in right now, regardless of whether or not that changes the size of their bodies. And that really challenges our dieting culture, which, especially for women, the message is you need to be smaller, basically. If you're a woman and you go to a personal trainer, I just had a friend talking to me about this. It's like she just assumes she's going to the personal trainer because she wants to have a smaller body. And so the personal trainer cannot stop with the commenting about dieting recommendations and how this is going to make a certain body part maybe look a certain way. And it's really distracting from the reason why she's going, which is to strengthen her body and relieve pain that she's feeling. And so this also contributes to weight stigma. We'll talk about that in a second. So the second principle is health enhancement. Support health policies that improve and equalize access to information and services, and personal practices that improve human well-being, including attention to individual physical, economic, social, spiritual, emotional, and other needs. So it's really considering individual circumstances that impact health, and really opening up our minds to the fact that one person's experience with access to health care, appropriate services is gonna vary based on a variety of factors, and that influences the way they live in their bodies and their state of health, and it impacts their level of stress that they might feel, which again, part of that relates back to weight stigma. So the third principle is respectful care. Acknowledge our biases and work to end weight discrimination, weight stigma, and weight bias. Provide information and services from an understanding that socioeconomic status, race, gender, sexual orientation, age, and other identities impact weight stigma, and support environments that address these inequities. 4, eating for well-being. Promote flexible, individualized eating based on hunger, satiety, nutritional needs, and pleasure, rather than externally regulated eating that focuses on weight control. And 5, life-enhancing movement that supports physical activities that allow people of all sizes, abilities, and interests to engage in enjoyable movement to the degree that they choose. So putting that choice in there, that we ultimately, it's our business and our choice as to how or to what degree we even pursue our own health. That isn't, I think the majority of us want to pursue well-being and health, but ultimately that is our choice. And we tend to, with movement, we make that a chore. We may avoid movement because of that, or we may kind of feel like it's something we have to force ourselves to do, instead of really looking at it as an opportunity to learn more about our bodies, get some energy out, increase our energy, reduce stress, improve our mood, all of these different benefits that we may experience with movement when we move in a way that we enjoy and it feels good. If we are moving in a way that we don't really like, it actually negates a lot of the benefits that we see in the literature, in the research with exercise, that we get with exercise. The eating well for well-being, obviously that's a huge focus of mine in my practice. And one thing I say often is that nutrition advice should be given to you and in a way that is responding to your internal body information rather than replacing it. So nutrition information really shouldn't be saying like, hey, you don't actually know what's going on in your body and I know way better and I'm going to tell you everything you need to do and everything you need to eat and I'm going to totally take care of that for you, and you can just sort of ignore all of those inappropriate hunger messages and cues and fullness cues that your body's giving you. So I think nutrition information should respond to what your body is saying. So for example, if I maybe I'm putting together some sort of plan for a client who needs some structure in the beginning of the work that we're doing, which often is needed, and let's say I give a loose portioning recommendation because they just don't even know where to start and they really need that grounding, and they say, oh, you know what, I usually eat this much and I think it feels fine at this point, that's the best I can tell, and I go, oh, well, that's great, let's go with that and let's collect some information about that. So I don't know if that makes sense, that might be a little out of context, but that's one example. But really focusing on nutrition in a way that honors our hunger and satiety, that does not cause us to fear our hunger or think it's a problem or think it's bad if we become full, or even too full, to take moral context out of our eating experience completely. If we have moral context applied to our eating experience, it actually turns into us feeling good or bad based on how we eat, which is really inappropriate and really unhelpful. Trust me, if you haven't experienced it personally, I will tell you, for myself in my past, it was not helpful, and also for my clients, it's really unhelpful. Feeling good because you ate something or thinking you were bad because you ate something just doesn't really lead to self-care based decision making around food. So that's the gist of health at every size. I think the main take home too, and the most common challenge and question with health at every size is like, well, how could you say that, everyone's healthy at every size? I know so-and-so and he's definitely not healthy, or I know so-and-so and she's not healthy. Again, the point is taking a person's lifestyle and life experience into context and taking weight kind of out of that equation so that our bias isn't impacting the care that we might be giving to someone, or causing us to have judgment about someone, or make assumptions about someone's health. It means we all have the right to pursue health in the bodies that we're in. And I encourage everyone, if you ever encounter a professional who doesn't align with that, to find one who does, who says, I respect you enough and I respect your body enough that I'm not going to require that you change it in order to give you appropriate care. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the only other thing to bring up, I know this is getting a little long, is that people wonder about the extremes. Like, what about someone who's really, really, really significantly low weight, to a point where we think there's no way that person can be healthy at that really, really extreme low weight? And that's probably true. But again, taking that person's personal experience into context is super, super important in understanding what the plan of action is to help them pursue health in that body. And yes, the side effect to that may be weight gain, most likely will be weight gain, but it really depends on that person, because that person might have a genetic condition that keeps their weight at that weight, or the person might have cancer and they're in chemo, or this person might have anorexia and they have a low weight because of that. And so the treatment process and the wellness plan for each one of those individuals is going to be very unique and very different, even though their weights might all be the same and their heights might all be the same. And the same would be for someone in a really large body on the more extreme end of things. Let's say someone's immobile and kind of stuck in a bed or something. Obviously we wouldn't feel that's necessarily for that person, I guess, to be a state of wellness, but we also want to keep that person's physical abilities and current situation in context. If we support strict weight loss focus, we know that dieting is ineffective and causes a lot of different problems that I will talk about in a different Facebook Live. So yeah, just taking the whole being into context. This is as holistic as you get. Some holistic stuff is not as holistic as you might think. In my opinion, this is the holistic work, but that's my opinion. So, all right, if anyone has any questions about health at every size, send them over. I answer these questions all day long. And yeah, that's all. What's today? Happy Wednesday. I'll see you all soon. Bye.